Hi there. I wanted to do a quick video on this project that I've kind of been putting together using Spring Boot microservice. It's using Webflux for non-blocking, and it has four nodes. Three of them are Spring Boot. One of them is a Vue.js site that I've put together. So to talk through it, there's a registry app which uses Eureka. And both the gateway and the client application connect via Eureka. So what happens is, in the case of the gateway, the registry application is very simple. It just has a enable Eureka server, and I think that's all it does. And there's some configuration as well required for it to work. In the gateway, what it does is, as you can see, it connects through to the different endpoints. So there's a launch controller, which I did originally. I did some work a while ago on a monolithic Spring Boot application to query different methods of Java for hash sets and linkLists and array lists and stuff. And that was caught in file here, not on here, it's on the client application. There's a compare iterators and map, and that was the original work. And what this did is it did all of the work for a given protocol all in one go. So I wanted to split this up so that it did the different segments for each bit, so you could fill and you could delete and you could get for each different method if you wanted. So they were optional, and obviously you needed to fill it in order to be able to query it or to delete it. So it has this class which has been kind of made into a component, which is like a service, and in the controller there's a main controller which does all the different calls to the different backend internal storage, as you can see here. So what the gateway does is it's a lot more simple, and it uses the registry application Eureka URL, which is configured in the client application's configuration over here. So it connects through to that, and then it gets the method name which comes from the URL, and the method names can be any of these. And it uses these three different methods to either delete, get, or post. The post is to actually generate the different types of arrays or hashMaps or sets or whatever it is. And the get mapping is used to generate a query, a record, and the delete mapping is a REST calls to delete the entry. And these ones just require an ID, whereas this one just is the method name. And then I wrote last night. I was up just trying to get a Vue.js application to work, to interact with the gateway as such. And I've used Vue 3 with TypeScript and classes, but there aren't actually any classes involved in this at this point. I might make the search component into a class if I get time to go back into it, but literally the app.vue calls header calls where is it on? Header has got like a home page, which is the default action, and the home page calls query form, and query form is where everything happens. And I've made it so that the results come back on the page in different components for whatever you select. So I've started all the applications up, and in order to start it, if you start registry, then you can start client and gateway. It's up to you, whichever way you start them up. And then the front end, they use a command line to npm run serve to start up the front end. So with that said, and this is not a bad machine. It's an i5 8th generation. I've got 32 gigs of RAM, so it's got quite a bit of power there to go through this. This is where the project is. I will put a link on the video, and this is the interface from before. So I'm going to refresh it, and this is what it gives you that front end, that query page or query form that you saw. This is what it gives you here. So to quickly show you one method, and then we go back and we do all of them. If you leave these blank, and if we do 10, so then it doesn't delete or get an entry. It just generates it and it gives you a time. So we only selected array list, and for array list, we've got a result back that it took this amount of time. And the time taken, it's like milliseconds, really. It's using nano because some of it was so quick at the time that I was doing the test. And initially, when I did the process using the monolithic application, which did all the generation, get, and remove it all in one go, some of them timed out. So I decided to do it this way in order to try so that you can see it in real time. And I mean, there's a lot of videos out there to show you the different things like string arrays and linked lists and all the rest of it, but you can't actually see them working away. So I thought I'd do this to show you it working in real time. So I'm going to refresh the page. We're going to go up the entries to some crazy amount. We've got an entry, so I think I'm going to go a higher entry to delete and query. So it's more further down the line in the array. And this is the amount of entries, and this is the text that each element should have for the however many amount of entries it's creating. So and the query and the delete are done by the ID. What I mean by ID is the entry record that's created. So it's the index as such. This is what I mean. And that is slightly longer. So that's the text. Then it will be that 1, 2, 0, 1, 2, 3, 4, 5 to up to whatever amount you've selected up here. So if I click this now, what you can see is the records all being filled. And what you actually saw is the ones that came back quicker, well, you saw them happen. And if we do it again, what you'll see is the size of the array here has gone up, because on this one, I'm not sure why it's not that much, because we only had 10 records initially. But it will, if we do it again, it will increment the size again, as in the size of these arrays will go up, and some of them will crash because of what the code is doing, and that probably needs more work. But yeah, so you'd have to really put it on pause and take it slow frames to see which ones did which calls quicker. But it's a way of actually seeing it in real time, and maybe perhaps if we do a lot more, we can see more of a delay. So the deletes in all cases happen quite quickly. Anyhow, it was a quick video to show you the code and where to get the code from, and it gives you a real-time view of how these different sets and stacks work, or how they return results. And you might want to mess around for yourself. Feel free to give me a shout or leave comments on if there should be any other methods that you think I should include in this. I know some of them, the way they've been done, so if I go into client gateway, internal storage, so I know, like, for example, this one, which is declared like this, I think the queue can be done as an array list as well. There's different methodologies that some of them can use. This one is the one that's crashed, the string array internal error, and the string array has a slightly different setup to the rest of them because there's a fixed size. It did it when it first generated it, and I think there's a problem with it when it really recalled this method, so you'd have to call it once to get a true result. So I'll look for string. Not a good thing to look for. Since there's so many of them, I think it's after here. There we go. So it's this thing here that must be crashing or causing a problem. with this internal server error, which probably appears in here somewhere as well. Index out of bound. There you go. And that's probably because we're using an integer for the thing rather than a long for the elements. Oh, no, actually, no, you can't change that. Anyhow, yeah, so that's the video. Thank you. Bye-bye.